Hi, I'm Perry Atkinson, General Manager here at theDove. Hey, check out our other videos and check out our website at thedove.us. Welcome back. Well, we've all been watching with great interest. Now Jordan's been pulled into this fight on terror at a whole new level, with the Jordanian pilot being unbelievably assassinated and murdered right in front of all of our eyes by being burned to death. Something that's just, it's a level of barbarity that we just can't even get our head around. I'm delighted to have with us Dan Perkins. He's the master writer and the author of The Brotherhood of the Red Nile Trilogy, which centers around the Islamic nuclear terrorism against the United States. He's also considered and recognized as a radical Islam expert, and so we're delighted to have him with us today. Hi, Dan. How you doing, my friend?
I'm fine, thank you, and thank you for having me on your show.
You bet. Thanks. Listen, people can get to you by going to Dan Perkins, what website?
Well, the book website is Dan Perkins, the word @, Sanibel, SANIBEL.com. You can also look me up in Google, Dan Perkins author, and the books are available at Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble, and you can order them through your bookstore. And the third book of the trilogy will be out in about 3 weeks.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
We've watched this horror over the last couple of days. I'm still amazed that the world isn't totally on tilt. Maybe we've become immune to all of this, which is a problem, but where do you think this is going to lead now that Jordan's been pulled into the fight?
Well, I think that your observation about the passive nature of the world, let me take you back about 7 months ago. You remember the outrage when the first person was beheaded?
Yes.
How the world seemed to change. The president had to change. He had to do something. Yet by the time the last person was beheaded, we became almost complacent. One thing that I try and do in my first book, The Terrorist Perspective, is to try and help the American people understand how these people think. They think differently than we do, why they hate us and why they want to destroy us. The problem that I see in our country today is that the vast majority of Americans, and I'm saying 95% plus, know virtually nothing about the Muslim faith or their documents in the Quran or the Sharia law. And so when we react to what happened with the burning of the pilot, we react and we say, from our perspective, how could they do that? If you understand that violent attacks against people is in the history of this religion back to the times of Muhammad, where after a battle he ordered the beheading of between 600 and 900 civilians. This is not a new tactic for them. I liken to the fact that prior to the first beheading, very little press was given to the fact that the terrorists had beheaded over 10,000 people, women and children, put their heads on fence posts as a warning sign. See, their belief is so specific and so strong. It is either join us or die. There is no compromise. There is no middle ground. We can't think that way. So while we can be shocked and horrified by the burning of this man alive, one has to understand that there is a progression in the aggression of the terrorists in order to, one, keep them in the forefront, keep the world afraid of them, and that gives them power. We, in fact, empower them by how we react to what they do.
Well, we have no reaction. I mean, we don't know what the policy is. I mean, I have to take a look at Jordan and King Abdullah now beginning to respond with some kind of airstrikes. I mean, that's the first physical response we've seen in months, if not years, against terrorism. And here we are, America. We could lead the way on putting the light out on this organization, but we're not even at the table at a realistic level.
Well, that's an interesting point. Speaking of the table, I don't know whether you saw this breaking news yesterday at Breitbart. There is a discussion in Breitbart of a release from European negotiators that I find it hard even to tell you this, that the administration is considering an agreement with Iran to be the mediator of the hostilities between the warring factions, and America would walk away. Now, if you understand that the Iranian people, Muslims are Shiite Muslims, most of the rest of the Middle East that's involved in this are Sunnis. There is no great love lost between the Shiites and the Sunnis. So our administration is seriously considering brokering a deal that would put the Iranian government in charge of trying to settle the dispute in the Middle East. I find that's, to me, honestly, is more shocking than the pilot being burned to death. That we would literally let the fox in the hen house with 3 or 4 extra foxes. The idea that the Iranian government can act as a mediator when they are the minority in the Middle East. I said to a reporter yesterday when I was doing an interview, if you've read any part of my first book, that situation happens, that we put Iran in charge, makes my first book come true.
Dan, I'm not even sure how to ask this next question, so forgive me if I'm a little too forward on it, but it just appears that where we don't get our mind around the mindset of the radical Muslim, we can't get our mind around the mind of our own president, who seems to favor the radical Muslim. We got a problem.
You are absolutely right. There are a lot of people who were in the government and out of the government who have said publicly that it seems to us, these are observers, political officials, military generals, that if we can't even name our enemy, if we're reluctant to call them radical Islam, if we can't name our enemy, then how can we fight them? And I went one step further, as I just said a few moments ago. If you don't understand what they believe and what drives them, how can you be successful in trying to fight them? We have clearly an administration in Washington who does not want to do battle with either the Shiites or the Sunnis, who doesn't want to be involved in Iraq, who wants to lead from behind. And I did an op-ed, you might have remembered, there was a situation where there were 40,000 Christians and lesser Muslims who were trapped on a mountain in Iraq.
Right.
And the ISIS terrorists were going to attack the mountain.
Right.
There was no food, no water. And so what happened was I wrote an op-ed piece, said, Mr. President, if not America, then who?
Right.
There is no other good guy, especially when you look at Western Europe. They're all under attack from the Muslims. We saw what happened in Paris. They have the no-go zones in France and in the UK. We have them in Switzerland and in Germany and Spain. So the Muslim people have attacked Western Europe. They're not our ally in doing this. So if we don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. And I think our president feels that position, if we have to do it, we're being the bullies of the world. I don't think so.
Okay. It could be that the wake-up call to America is coming via Prime Minister Netanyahu on March 3rd, hopefully, with his speech to the joint session of Congress. That's question number one. And question number two, now that Jordan's been pulled into this and they are responding with military action, do you think this could spark a civil war among the Muslim countries in such a way that they just get tied up within themselves?
Let me try and take both of them. Let me deal with the first one, Netanyahu. I think that he may bring perspective to the Congress, but I am. It's difficult for me to say this. We will wake up America when 100,000 people die because of a nuclear attack or more. It's coming. It's absolutely coming. And when I heard that they wanted to put the Iranian people in charge with their nuclear program, that's really scares me, because then I believe we're going to get attacked. As it relates to the second question, I think there's a different issue that will cause the outcome that you're talking about, and that is the decline in the price of oil. Understand that if you live in Mosul and you're working in a McDonald's, you can't earn enough money as a counter person to buy your ammunition for your AK-47. Somebody else has to support that. As the oil price has collapsed almost $100 a barrel in the last year, what we see is that there's less and less money from those governments who are supporting terrorism to flow money into the terrorist groups. And as a result, governments are going to have to make a choice between feeding their people or feeding the terrorists. I think they're going to choose to try and keep their own jobs, and they're going to feed their people. Wow. So there will be a decline in revenue going to the terrorists, which will then create as you said, perhaps a civil war for whatever money's there.
All right, Dan, I'm going to have you back many times. I'm running out of time on this one, though. Let me ask you this: where is the rest of the civilized world in fighting this? Where are they? Where's their voices?
Good question. I will tell you this, that I believe that the Muslim people are the protected class of the world. And the reason they're the protected class, when you ask where's the rest of the world, in my opinion, sir, the rest of the world is afraid that the Muslims will come and attack them.
All right, so the Muslim, the radical Islamic group is winning the intimidation war.
Absolutely. No, without question.
All right. Well, this is fascinating. Again, your next book's coming out when, Dan?
About 2 weeks. It's called It's the final book of the trilogy, The Brotherhood of the Red Nile, and it's called America Responds. It's a story about how I think, from my perspective, what America needs to do to bring the end of terrorism and make the world a safer place.
Do you think it's possible?
Yes.
Do you think we'll wake up before the nuclear holocaust of 100,000 people?
No, I don't think so.
That's quite a statement.
Well, just because I believe that political correctness has such a tremendous control over the thought processes, it will take a nuclear attack to allow us to get away from political correctness. Look what happened in France. They realized that they made a mistake in treating the Muslims and allowing them not to assimilate into their culture, the language. They let them set up their own states within the country of France. And when this thing blew up in Paris, they admitted they made a mistake. And it was a political correctness mistake.
About a minute left. What would happen if Israel takes a strike on Iran during the time that Obama administration is trying to use Iran as the broker?
We will have the chaos that you were looking for, and I believe there will be an awful lot of rockets and missiles and soldiers. I suspect that there might even be an attempted invasion into Israel. I think it would be devastating.
Wow. Dan, thank you. Can we have you back sometime soon?
Anytime you want, just call my agent. I'd be happy. Loved it. I think you have a great grasp of the problem. You ask great questions, and I've enjoyed being on with you, and I look forward to coming back.
All right, we'll do it again soon. And again, your website, one more time.
It's Dan Perkins, the word @Sanibel, SANIBEL.com, and the books are available at Amazon.com.
All right, thanks, my friend. Look forward to having you back soon.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right, and again, you may want to check out the website and look for the book at Barnes & Noble, Amazon. The one that we referred to a little bit today is called The Brotherhood of the Red Nile Trilogy, and you may want to look for that. Again, Dan Perkins is the author. All right, stick around. We got some great programs continuing here on theDove TV, and trust you have a good day. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.